Hello, today is Friday, June 21st, and welcome to episode 350 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI's founder and executive director, Jamil Jaffer. I'm joined today by NSI's deputy executive director showing off her swag, Jessica Jones, NSI senior fellow Lester Munson, and NSI visiting fellow Jeffrey Wells. Before we jump into it, I want to note that we are giving away, folks, NSI water bottles. If you're watching the video on YouTube right now, you can see the water bottle, or at least the coffee mug, whatever this thing is, the swell type thing that we might be giving away one of these, maybe a mug. You can win it alongside a Fault Lines magnet. So we'll talk more about that at the end of the episode. So stay tuned all the way to the end. We'll tell you how to win one of these amazing giveaways. But in the meantime, let's talk about the crazy stuff that's happened in the world. And in particular, let's talk about the summit that just took place in North Korea between Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. They came together for the first time in North Korea in 24 years that Vladimir Putin had visited North Korea. It hadn't been since Kim Jong-un's father, before he passed away, that President Putin had visited. Now, it is worth noting that President Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un did get together just a few months back, last September, in Russia. Kim Jong-un famously took a train because he doesn't like taking airplanes. It's like John Madden in that way. Took a train to the heartland of Russia and met with Putin. They then got together more recently and they entered into a mutual defense treaty. Now, this is interesting because this mutual defense treaty is the first time that Russia and North Korea have agreed to defend one another since the Cold War. They did have a similar deal with the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union dissolved in the early 90s. The Russians ultimately entered into a friendship pact with North Korea, but not a mutual defense agreement. Now they're back into mutual defense. North Korea, for its part, has been sending thousands, up to 7,000 train loads, containers worth of military equipment to Russia for its war in Ukraine. I mean, it just shows, I think, how desperate the Russians are if they're relying on North Korea for weaponry, but they are. And now they're under this mutual defense pact. A lot of questions here. Is Russia going to share missile technology or other technology with North Korea, which has nuclear weapons, and is trying to build out its ballistic missile capability? One interesting note there, the North Koreans tried to launch a satellite to orbit last year in April and March. It failed. Then they met with the Russians met with Putin. Kim Jong-un did in Russia in September. And then in November, they successfully launched a satellite to orbit. Something going on there. We don't know for sure, but people are suspicious. And it's a concern. So, Jessica, what should we make of all this? Where should we go? What does China think about Russia and North Korea getting in bed together? I mean, China and Russia, pretty close with their quote-unquote no-limits partnership. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think, the issue of China, I think, is really interesting. It used to be the only lifeline for North Korea, and it's the main lifeline for Russia. And now it finds itself probably a little annoyed that North Korea and Putin are cozying up. I think, reports, we talked about Putin visiting China, Beijing, and Xi in May, and kind of, visiting the big brother. And reports indicate that he actually wanted to go to North Korea after that trip, and Chinese officials dissuaded him from going. So I think that shows that China, it wants a little bit of chaos in the global order. It wants anything where the U.S. is going to be challenged, where our legitimacy takes a hit. But it doesn't want that much chaos, especially on the Korean peninsula, with a country, North Korea, that has nuclear capabilities that could actually, in fact, hit Beijing. Right? That doesn't help them. They're no longer the main influence when it comes to North Korean behavior. And I think, we've tried to wield some influence with China to see if they could tamper down their support of Russia. They haven't wanted to do that, but this might be one area actually where China pushes back a little bit on Russia and actually tampers down if there is some technology transfer. Actually pushes back and says, "Not in our backyard."
Well, what about that, Jeffrey? Is this an overreach by Russia? Are they going to get themselves into hot water with the Chinese, who I think Jess is right, have been a key support for them in this war with Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to get themselves in hot water. What I think it's interesting to see that that Putin traveled to North Korea is kind of a sign of weakness to me a little bit, and I think a little bit of deference to China that says, yeah, I'm not quite the player that I think I am. And I think that China's ultimate goal is to take as much as they can, weaken Russia, to have them be a second-rate player in the region. I think, and when we seeing some of the pictures from 2 days ago from carpool karaoke with dictators, sort of demonstrated that that this is a really a last ditch effort, and I think it's a win for North Korea, certainly. And I think, as you said earlier, that I think we're likely to see North Korea get more technology out of this relationship,
Interesting.
and Russia continue to get kind of cheap weapons that don't necessarily work on the battlefield. And I think it could also extend over, and this may be an early sign that we'll see something like this in Iran happening at the same time. That maybe Putin travels to Iran, although their helicopters don't really work very well there, so maybe he'll go by train.
Well, that is interesting because Putin has some experience with helicopters too, with his big rival having been down in a helicopter, and then some interesting stuff going on. Who knows what's going on with all these helicopters?
Defenestration out of a helicopter, who knows?
I mean, but less. So, all right. So Russia making a play here with North Korea, maybe causing trouble with China, maybe not, maybe showing weakness, maybe getting bunk weapons on the battlefield from the North Koreans. Like, what do you think?
I think it's illustrative. I agree with Jeffrey. I think it's illustrative of the fact that Russia has a weak hand geopolitically, that that Putin is reduced to going to Pyongyang and sidling up to a guy that no one in the region can stand at all, who's a lunatic, who behaves in a way that irritates every single one of his neighbors, including China. And let's face it, North Korea has been a cat's paw for China for a long time, but China knows the limits of that, and they're not going to embrace them too closely because they know that that'll just irritate the other neighbors in the region. Russia appears to be willing to kind of cross that line. Putin needs some positive press. He's willing to go get his picture taken with Kim Jong-un, maybe do a deal on the technology. And we should be real hard-eyed about what that means for Russian military capabilities and North Korean military capabilities. And we should be taking tough stand on this axis of upheaval or axis of, new axis of evil with Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China for sure. But it shows the limits diplomatically of what Russia can do. Notably, Putin went to Vietnam the next day, got a much more muted reception. Yes, it was a little bit of pomp and circumstance, but no mutual defense agreement. Instead, they got like a very minor exchange of university professors or some nonsense like that. So Putin is a pariah.
Hey, George Mason employee here, Les. Don't knock the academics.
Hey,
That's
listen,
right.
listen, I'm all for marginal faculty activities. Trust me, I'm 100% for it. But I'm not sure it's a real game changer when it comes to global politics. But I think it's a lesson for us. There are real limits to what Russia can do in the world. But we should be concerned about, as Jamil, as you were saying, the space cooperation and the other kinds of weaponry that may be benefiting either side.
Well, so Jess, I'll give you the last word here. I mean, if this really is about Russian weakness and they're showing a sign, I mean, is this the time to double down on Ukraine and give them everything they need? If they're on the run and going to North Korea and begging for weaponry and playing footsie with the Iranians, I mean, is this a time to really hammer them hard and maybe try to push for a path forward to some sort of peace agreement?
I mean, absolutely. And I think, to Les's point about pissing off the neighbors in the region, you now have South Korea, which has been kind of sitting out much of the conflict in Ukraine and actually supplying, maybe military aid through the U.S., now saying upfront, at the end of the week, actually, maybe we'll send weapons directly to Ukraine. So, in fact, Russia is pissing off more people that may push more folks into the fight to support Ukraine.
Well, there you go, folks. That's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Claude Jennings, the NSI staff for the help in producing today's episode. As I promised at the top, for this special episode, number 350 of Fault Lines, we're giving away some swag. So check out our video on YouTube. You'll see one of the potential things. Oh, Les has got his mug. Jeffrey's got his swell. Jessica's got her swag in the background. So everyone's got their swag. So check out the video and then go on LinkedIn, go on Twitter, I guess X, whatever, right? And you'll be able to win a Fault Lines mug or water bottle and a Fault Lines magnet if you participate in the poll.
Designed by Les's daughter.
Designed by Lester's daughter, University of Chicago graduate.
Top
so we'll announce
stuff, people.
We go on, do the poll now. Get on LinkedIn, get on Twitter, do the poll. We'll announce a winner on Monday. So that means you got to tune in on Monday and then get in touch with us so we can send you your awesome Fault Lines mug, your awesome Fault Lines swell bottle, and or magnet. So, like I said before, Fault Lines is now on YouTube, so check out the videos so you can see the amazing swag and our amazing, beautiful faces, and check out our channel there. Check us out on Spotify, iTunes. I mean, obviously, you're already hearing us, so you're listening to the podcast. And if you like today's episode and or the poll and or the swag, rate, review, and subscribe. This is how we stay alive, people. Do it. Get in the game. Subscribe. Click the link below. Have a great weekend, and good luck on the swag game.